Hey folks, and welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Leeds United have announced their player return list for the 25-26 season, and I just wanted to have a little talk about it. Um, let's just get straight into it. Returning to their parent club, at least for the meantime, Joe Rothwell and Manor Solomon. Both of them joined Leeds on loan for the entire season. Um, Joe Rothwell chipped in with some assists and had a fantastic dead ball delivery. Very good at driving forward with the ball as well. If it were me, I would see about maybe putting in a 5 million bid to see if we could actually get him permanently. Or if it came to it, get him on another loan. Moving on to Manor Solomon, a great season for the Israel international, clocking up double figures in both goals and assists. Very good season. Playing mostly on the left wing and then cutting inside onto his right foot. Very, very good. Again, if the club's in a position to do so, I would offer maybe around a £15 million bid to see if we could get him permanently, or again, another loan move if available. Remaining in discussion with the club are two of Leeds' fullbacks, Sam Byram and Junior Firpo. Maybe a little bit of sentiment coming in here, but I would really like to see Sam stay on at the club as a backup. As a backup fullback. I would have my doubts as to whether he would be good enough for, a full season in the Premier League as a first choice. But he's Mr. Reliable. He's a 7 out of 10 every time he plays. Never lets the club down. Knows the club inside out. He's really worked hard on his fitness. He's been available for much more of the last two seasons than the club probably thought that he could play. And in a very grueling and physically demanding division like the Championship, he really did very well. So yeah, for me, I hope Sam stays on. If there are discussions going on between Leeds United and Sam Byram, I hope they've offered him something that he feels is acceptable, and I hope Sam stays on. Junior, great season. Got into double figures for goals and assists combined from left fullback. Brilliant return from an attacking point of view. I do feel that maybe defensively, maybe the Championship is more his level, but it did come out in an interview recently, and this is something we have to take in a little bit of context, that when Junior was playing for Leeds in the Premier League, he was doing that whilst fighting against injuries and illnesses, which he strongly believed affected his performance, and maybe a little bit of context has to be taken into that. But despite that, I do wonder I do still wonder if he would be good enough for the Premier League, because he was found out on a number of occasions, unfortunately, at Premier League level. He is more experienced now. He's a couple more seasons on with more games under his belt, more overall experience. He's become an international player, playing for Dominican Republic. He's actually, a lot of his attacking prowess has come from those matches where they've played him as a number 10. And just towards the end of this season, like Daniel Farker actually used him as a false 10, kind of coming in from the left flank, and he would be given that license to cut inside and make himself an outlet in the middle, and again, quite effective, getting his head on a couple of corners and things like that. He definitely improved his attacking prowess without a shadow of a doubt. But in the Premier League, we're going to need some fullbacks that have some defensive nous as well, and I just have my doubts as to whether Junior's got that in his locker. Sam Byram has played in the Premier League as well, and I just think Sam's a bit more defensively sound, and we are going to need that going into this new season, because we're going to be coming up against teams that are going to be quicker, stronger, more creative. So players like Sam, who's got a better defensive reading of the game than Junior, in my opinion. I would like to see Sam stay on. If Junior was to stay on, I'd be okay with it, as long as he's the backup and not first choice. I think some better quality is going to be needed there. If either of Joe Rothwell, Manor Solomon, Sam Byram and Junior Firpo don't return to the club, I wish them all the very best. They've had a fantastic season, all four of them really, in their own way, and they're all part of a really positive season, with Leeds getting promoted. So fair play to all four of them, and we'll see if any of them are wearing a Leeds United shirt going into this new season. In terms of the new terms that have been offered to four of the young players, we've got James DeBeo, who did find himself on the fringes of the first team, got himself onto a couple of substitute benches throughout the season. Rory Mahady played a lot of under-21 football, the young Scottish goalkeeper. Coben Bird, I think, was captain of the under-18s for quite a few games this season. And Harvey Vincent has been a winger who has, again, played a little bit for both the under-18s and the under-21s. I would be very happy if all four of them were to sign these new deals and then be sent out on loan. I think that maybe the time's right for those boys to, certainly for James DeBeo, because he's been that close to the first team in the Championship. He needs some game time now. He needs that development, and it's the only way he can get that development is by playing some first team football. So, anywhere between, say Championship and maybe League Two or even the National League, get some game time, get on loan. I'd love it if any of them would go on loan to Halifax Town. They're my hometown team. Like, I support Leeds United, but I do keep tabs on Halifax, and I'd love for Halifax to get promoted. They've just missed out in the National League playoffs again. They've got an awful record in the National League playoffs with Halifax. And if any of those four boys would be interested in going out on loan to Halifax, I'd love to see it. I really would. So, moving on to the players who will be leaving Leeds United upon expiry of their contract this summer. Just one senior player, and then the rest are basically under 21 players. Starting with Josh Gillivogie then, I mean, what a great bloke. You can tell that he's had a very good influence on a lot of the younger players in the first team squad this season. He came in at a very difficult time for Leeds when Ampadu and Gruev both got injured. And Josh just came in, gave Daniel Farker another option in that midfield. Didn't play a lot of games for Leeds this season, but any time he played, you could tell the purpose of why he was coming on. And obviously such a great influence in that dressing room. You can tell he's really well liked by the rest of the squad. So, I wish Josh all the very best. I really hope he finds another footballing home somewhere very, very soon. And whichever club gets him is going to be getting an absolute top professional. Someone that's just... It just oozes quality in terms of the type of person he is. Not necessarily as a footballer, but just as a human. He's brilliant. He even came out with a bit of a funny on the Leeds Awards ceremony. He announced that the best Leeds United young player of the season is Josh Gillivogie. He's 34 years old. So yeah, that was brilliant. Oh, that was really funny. As I say, that just seems to be the kind of guy he is, and yeah, brilliant. So I wish him the very, very best. Just the right character. You need characters in your squad. There aren't enough of them in football anymore. But Josh certainly is. So I wish him the very best. Harry Christie, young goalkeeper. Not sure what to make of how it's all ended for Harry, really. He was on the periphery of the first team squad at one point, where he was basically the third choice goalkeeper. and he's captained the youth teams before now. I think there's a good young player there. You know, goalkeepers again, they don't develop until way later than outfield players on average anyway. So yeah, I think he's just got to the point and the age of where he's not going to be in the running. So yeah, it's best that he finds a new footballing home for himself, but could have a decent career. Um, Kane Coleman had a couple of good loan spells with Buxton, um, and maybe that's his level. You know, if Buxton maybe come back in and offer him a contract, you know, maybe that's the direction that he could go in. You know, start quite low down and just work your way up. You know, he's still young enough. He's still young enough to work his way up a few divisions and maybe play at a slightly higher level. You never know. Connor Ferguson, young fullback. Coleman's a midfielder, by the way. Ferguson, young fullback. Again, he had a brief loan spell this season. Played the rest of the season in the under 21s, and again, look quite reasonable player. Again, another kid that could have a decent future, perhaps. So we'll see what happens with him. Obviously, Max McFadden, young attacker, can play anywhere across the front. Really, on the wing, in the 10 up front. Just another one that did quite well without being amazing, I guess. And you know, he had his moments where he did look very good. But yeah, again, just another player that just needs to find a new home now, really. Amari Miller. Now, this is a tricky one. Amari Miller joined the club back in 2021 as an 18-year-old from Birmingham. And he initially looked quite decent, but for the last 2 years hasn't played a game. Now, by all accounts, from what I can tell, he's been very poorly. Now, this is a guy who's only, you know, he's 22. He's going to be 23 in November, as far as I know. And you know, this is a young player whose career hasn't gone in the direction that, certainly not the direction he was hoping for. That's for sure. But there are certainly, you know, there's some health issues there that he needs to clear up. I hope he does, and that way then maybe he ends up having a decent career. But as I say, it surprised me that he was still on Leeds' books. I didn't know what had happened to him until a few months ago. So yeah, hopefully he sorts out whatever the personal issues are, whatever the illnesses are, and maybe he still has a career in football. But when the fact that he's pushing the age of 23, he's going to be a little bit of a late bloomer in that sense, you know, to get his career back on track. But you never know. Chris Moore, captained many of Leeds' underage matches in the past, centre back primarily, but has been asked to play completely out of position on numerous occasions, both at fullback and defensive midfield, and yeah, good attitude, not a bad young player at all. I think he could definitely have a career, certainly in the AFL. You know, as I say, Premier League might just be a step too far, but still young and good. You know, good head on his shoulders there. He'll do okay. I'm pretty certain of that. Joe Richards, fullback. Saw him a little bit in the under-21s and under-18s. Not a bad player. Just again, just another one that maybe needs to start lower down and maybe go through. I think Richards definitely needs another year in the under-21s somewhere. I think, and then maybe just send him out. You know, sign him up and then send him on loan. To get some first team football. I think that might be the best option for Joe there. Joe Snowden, midfield. Again, showed glimpses of promise, did Snowden. decent little player, but again, just has probably just found his level, and needs to kind of develop and try and work his way up the league. Same for all of these young players, really. Start low down, get yourself into some first teams in a lower division, and work your way up. Show what you can do. There's other young players that have done it in the past. These boys have got an opportunity now. Luca Thomas had a couple of loan spells this season in the National League. Did all right. Had a loan at York, and then on at Halifax, and he did okay at both. Not necessarily spectacular, but he's a young striker, and strikers always get judged on goals and assists, and not very much else. So he's got all the potential in the world, and just needs to try and find a new footballing home where he can kind of develop like that. And then finally, Dan Tulson used to captain the under-18s, played some under-21s this season as well. Yeah, again, just another player that just needs to find a new home. All of these young players that are going to have their contracts expiring this summer, they've all got potential. They've all got some kind of future somewhere. It's just not going to be at Leeds. Again, I for one would love to see some of those young lads go over to play for Halifax, because I think they could do a job for Halifax and they could help them get promoted. So there's definitely some talent there, and it'd be good to see. It'd be good to see some of those other boys joining up with Halifax if they can. But if not, we'll see where they go otherwise. So yeah, that's about it really. There's no massive surprises in there. It's nice that the club are in discussions with Sam. I would. It is a bit sentimental because he is he is originally from the Leeds Youth Academy. Not actually born in Leeds. He was born down south, but he played with the Leeds underage from a very young age, and obviously went away. And he's come back, improved his fitness no end really, and just it'd just be good just to keep that experience in the squad as well, because we're going to need some experience, and Sam provides that. Again, what I said with Junior, if he goes to a club like Betis, absolutely fair play to him. He's earned it. He's earned that move to go back to to Spain where he played a lot of his younger days of football. And I could see that. I could see him going to a team like Betis, who are kind of in the middle of La Liga. So I think it could do quite well for him. Loan moves for the four young ones. Loans of different levels. I think De Bayo, Championship, Mahedi, League One, League Two, Coburn Bird and Harvey Vincent, League Two or National League, I would say, in terms of those loans. But again, we need to wait and see if any of these boys will accept the new terms that have been offered to them. They do still have the option to go elsewhere if they want to. I hope they don't. I hope they stay at Leeds. I hope they see a pathway. Lots of young players have come through from the Leeds Academy into the first team before. There's nothing stopping those four if they just keep the right attitude, keep working hard, and keep being willing to develop. And then hopefully that natural talent comes through with all of that as well. And as I say with Joe and with Mana, if the club could get them for a combined 20 million, I know they play at different clubs, Joe and Mana, but if in terms of the combined expenditure, if we could get the two of them for around 20 million, I don't think that's bad business in terms of the money that Leeds will have available this new season. So I would definitely look to try and do that. If not, there's going to be other dead ball specialists out there. There's going to be other wingers out there. So it's not the be all and end all. But these two boys have had the chance to play for Leeds, see what it's like, experience the great fan base that the club's got, and that Ellen Road atmosphere. And obviously there's big plans for Ellen Road as well. With the increased capacity over the next couple of seasons. It's going to be a great stadium to play in. It already is, and it's going to be even better as time goes on. So these are what these players have got to think about. Does Leeds provide everything that they're looking for their career at the different stages of their career that they're at right now? That's what they've got to consider. Anyway, we'll leave it at that for today on this one. Big thank you for watching. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do please give the video a like, and keep an eye out for more Leeds United content. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. See you on the next one. Bye for now.